Hey everyone, what's up? Finch here. We're back with my round two game of the brackets for the Cash Gang Draft Tournament against Tremono. He goes by the name Gorilla Tactics on Pokemon Showdown, which is honestly quite fitting considering he drafted at Armanitan. Unfortunately, not Galarian, but nevertheless. Looking at the teams, he's got some threats. I've got some threats. But let's get into the full teams and discuss team building before we go any further. Right off the bat, you see I am New Jersey Jinx still. He is the Shanghai knockoffs. Sorry for the awkward spacing. This is kind of done. Oh, I can't even reverse. All right, fuck it, fuck it. This is a mess and a half. We're just going with this. So my team is the norm. Using the team Tornadus T, Aegislash, Slowbro Mega, Rhyperior, Mandibuzz, Sylveon, Rotomo, and the six I picked. I elected to drop Rhyperior once more. It just didn't really do too well against him. While I was able to give a secondary attack to Darmanitan and potentially Tornadus T. Tornadus T could run Grass Knot or Knockoff, Focus Blast, so on and so forth, Toxic, you name it. Alamamolo's of the hard wallet. Hydreigon could take advantage of it. Florges could potentially muscle through it, or even be able to take a couple of Earthquakes if runs bulky, and so on and so forth. I felt I needed every other Pokemon. But right off the bat, the initial thing that I noticed was I was talking with a friend, and he suggested that Tornadus did really well against him. And I was like, I really wanted to run Nasty Plot, Heat Wave, Taunt. I didn't really feel a need to run U-Turn in all honesty. Didn't really feel a need to run Knockoff or Toxic either. And I wanted Defog on Mandibuzz because that does really well against Nidoqueen, which you actually saw in a previous game of mine. I ran the fast Defog Knock variant against a Nidoqueen. So yeah, right off the bat here, I was like, okay, I I want to use a Tornadus T that had Taunt, Hurricane, Nasty Plot, and Heat Wave. It did really well. It gave me a win condition, and on top of that, it also didn't really need to be overly offensive. For example, if I get a Toxic or a Knockoff on something like the Florges, then plus two Hurricane can two kill it regardless, even if it's specially defensive, which I'm inclined to believe he'll run specially defensive because my only physical attacker truly is Rhyperior. And I've been tending to run more specially oriented Aegislash, so I think that people might tunnel vision on that and predict that. So moreover, my Tornadus T of choice, I ran speed just for Hydreigon, and I ran speed for Hydreigon and Darmanitan without Scarf. I didn't really mind being slower than the faster Tornadus T, just because I thought his would be strapped to be sexually defensive and attempt to check things like the Sylveon, check things like the Tornadus T, and check things like the Aegislash. So yeah, I figured I'd either be faster either way, or I'd be slower, but I'd live two Hurricanes anyway, so no big deal. Interaction wasn't likely to come up anyway, seeing as I had Rotomo with Scarf Thunder, which I'll get to later, Aegislash to tank special hits, and also Sylveon on top of all that. So yeah, I just felt pretty confident, all things considered, in that matchup. So I ran a fairly bulky Tornadus T. Didn't have much special attack either. A lot of special defense, which let me live a Specs Draco and a Life Orb Thunder from Hydreigon and Nidoqueen, respectively. And even a Scarf Flare Blitz from Adamant Darmanitan. I had some physical defense as well. So yeah, that came in handy. And if I got knocked off, I could always live a Heavy Slam from Uninvested Aggron after Stealth Rock always as well with the investment I had. And then I also just made sure that Heat Wave at plus two always took it, max special defense plus Aggron. I don't even think I needed much investment. I might have had like 40 special attack, something like that. But yeah, so this is my full Tornadus T set. Going a bit forward, Aegislash. Initially, I had Substitute Toxic, King Shield, and Shadow Ball, which is a set I've run a lot, and it does really well because it gets subs up on Alamamola. I could kind of fuck with Florges if it likes Heal Bell, which I thought he'd run Heal Bell, but I could always stall them out. And it also can get a Hydreigon coming in. However, I thought long and hard about this, and I talked with my boy Jake, who's actually the guy who ran my pool, my draft pool, Pool 8, I believe it was. He's a really smart draft player, by the way. Big shout out to him. But he's like, and I basically told him my logic when I was kind of paranoid about something in team building. Basically, I knew I wasn't going to bring Shedinja because Tornadus hits it, Aegislash hits it, Slowbro can Toxic, Rhyperior hits it, Mandibuzz hits it, and Rotomo can potentially status it. Sylveon could even run Toxic or Mystical Fire, so no chance he brings Shedinja. Then I'm like, okay, he has to bring Aggron. It's his only flying resist against Tornadus T, and it could check Sylveon comfortably. So Aggron's being brought, and he's bringing Tornadus T because it does pretty well against me, and it's Tornadus T after all. You really have to go far out of your way not to bring it like I did that one time. Hydreigon he's bringing because he could use a set to lure Sylveon. It's just too good not to bring. Nidoqueen actually has a nice matchup against me. It can clock everything with Life Orb 4 attacks. It can also set up rocks or Toxic Spikes, so I just knew he was going to bring that. So I'm like, alright, so he has to bring 2 to 3 out of Florges, Alamamola, and Darmanitan. Looking at his team, Florges makes the most sense of those 3 to bring for sure because it has a ton of special bulk, which can come in handy against Tornadus T, Slowbro Mega, and Rotomo. And on top of that, if I lack Iron Head on my Aegis Slash, then Calm Mind variant has a good chance of sleeping if it can get Heal Bells off and Toxics. So it's between Alamomola and Darmanitan for the last Pokemon. And I'm like, I have Slowbro, which is arguably the best non-Belly Drum counter to Darmanitan. You're not running Belly Drum on regular Darmanitan. I've seen it on the Darmanitan Galar with the Fling set, which is really cool. We actually saw someone sleep with that earlier this week, ironically enough. So yeah, that's an option. But also, Alamomola gives you Wish. If you run Wish on Alamomola, then you can come in on Slowbro. You can take Toxics, Weak Scalds, and so on. You could come in on Rhyperior and Mandibuzz. If I'm not taught Mandibuzz, you could Wish up and you could heal up anything, and that frees the slot for Wish on Florges, which means that you could run Calm Mind on it, which focuses on the win condition. So I thought he wouldn't bring Darmanitan. So I thought he'd bring Calm Mind, Recovery Move, Synthesis probably, Moonblast, and Heal Bell, because Heal Bell is a staple against my team. I run a lot of status on the Florges. Because of that set, it could, in theory, 1v1 Aegis Slash. Just because I couldn't stall it out of Heal Bell PP before I get 6 Calm Minds up, and then with 6 Calm Minds up, Moonblast is easily a 3 KO, despite my special defense investment, which is quite significant to the plus 2 away from Tornadus T's offensive variants, and live 1 Life Orb Earth Power from a Nidoqueen after Stealth Rock. So that's cool and all, but I still couldn't 1v1 that without either getting a knockoff with Mandibuzz, which means I have to risk Mandibuzz at some point if I didn't lure it in naturally, or a trick off with Rotom-Mow. Because of all of those things, I didn't feel comfortable with the matchup. So we talked it through, and we agreed that it just wasn't worth risking. So I ran Iron Head over Substitute on the Aegis Slash, which also means that if he ran a Hydreigon, I could do damage to it. I actually ran a little attack to assure I did 40% minimum to it, so I could kill the Hydreigon after two Life Orb. Admittedly, that does also give me a better matchup against specially defensive Florges, as I have a better chance to kill it in one shot. Because he's really inclined to run specially defensive on it, as I said before. Especially defensive Calm Mind in particular is what I was expecting, because my only physical attacker is Rhyperior, so again, running specially defensive makes a ton of sense. So I was really paranoid about that, so I ran Shadow Ball, Iron Head, Toxic, and King Shield at the end of the day, and that ended up coming really in handy, as we'll see later on. On Slowbro, I just knew I was going to run a lot of physical defense. I just ran special defense to live a non-Life Orb Dark Pulse from Hydreigon after Stealth Rock, which was only a very minimal amount. I also think I live 1 Modest from full. I think he kind of accomplished the same with a similar amount of special bulk. And they just pimped out physical defense to help against potential curse Aggron. So Scald with Mega Slowbro can 3 KO it, and he can't really 2 KO me without a ton of curses, if even. But more importantly, it helps with their mana 10, because even a Choice Band Displayables can't 2 KO me. And with Mega, it just bounces off, and Scald can kill it in 1 hit. Especially with Recoil, if it doesn't from full regardless. So yeah, I dropped Rhyperior, as I said. It just wasn't cutting it here. I needed all my other Pokemon, which brings me to my alternative to it, Rotom-Mow, as I was always bringing Mandibuzz and Sylveon. Rotom-Mow, I elected to run a Scarf set, but I knew I was going to outrun Scarf Hydreigon or Scarf Darmanitan. I figured he'd run Scarf Darm, not Scarf Hydreigon. Hydreigon has too much breaking potential. So I actually ran a Modest set that only had speed to outrun, like, max speed Tornadus T, and I think that's it. Yeah, I only outrun Max speed Tornadus T. Oh yeah, I also outrun Modest Nidoqueen, so in case I tricked, I still ran a Modest Nidoqueen as well. So I didn't think he'd run Timid on it because he knows I'd creep with Mandibuzz anyway. So Modest gives you extra power. So I figured if I'm not going to run at max speed. So it gets me Modest. Modest let me run Thunder, and Modest Thunder always kills a max HP Tornadus T. So my goal was to lead with this and potentially catch the Tornadus T turn 1 if he got greedy. In worst case scenario, he goes Nidoqueen, and I could just go Mandibuzz. And worst case scenario, I fall a little behind if it's Toxic. So yeah, no big deal there. I definitely was fine. So that was a good thing to run. It also gives me Trick, Volt Switch, Leaf Storm. So it's a pretty big threat to his team with all of that offensive utility presence. And it can still have bulk to live a Draco Meteor from Hydreigon, or a couple uninvested Hurricanes from Tornadus T, I believe. And it could come in repeatedly on Alamomola or Aggron if need be, especially if the Aggron lacks Fire Punch or Avalanche. So I didn't expect either of those moves on the Aggron, so felt pretty comfortable, all things considered. The next Pokemon I liked to run was Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz was a lock in this game just because I have to bring it against Nidoqueen teams pretty much. It also gives me Defog for Toxic Spikes and Stealth Rock that it could set, but on top of that, it kind of decompresses Tornadus T, which you've seen a lot of me talking about in these videos. But basically, running Defog on that means I could run all sorts of moves from Tornadus T, which is great. But also I could run Toxic on it or Knockoff on it. Knockoff in particular to knock off the Life Orb from Nidoqueen, which is humongous. So yeah, I ran max speed, or near max speed to outrun Nidoqueen. Then I ran like 28 physical defense to live a Choice Band Flablets from Darmanitan always. I just put the rest in special defense with Knock, Roost's, I want to say Toxic. No. Knock, Roost, Defog, U-turn. Yeah, Knock, Roost, Defog, U-turn. That was my full set. I didn't run Toxic on that. And then Sylveon, here's the fun part. So initially I was just running a fairly specially defensive set. I didn't really need much physical defense because he's got Tornado's T, special attacker. Hydreigon, I ran some physical defense to Light Orb, Iron Tail after Stealth Rock, always, even if it's got a plus attack nature, which I didn't anticipate. But then I talked a bit more with Jake, who basically saved me. Again, I probably lost without this change, and we'll get into why in a minute. He told me that Throat Chop Hydreigon's a possibility, and I didn't consider that. And I'm still pretty new to this draft thing. In hindsight, I should have went a bit more thoroughly through move pools and figured that out. But he told me I need to go Cute Charm plus Moonblast for the possibility of Throat Chop Hydreigon, and I did. And I had to run a bit more physical defense to live a +1 Iron Head without Life Orb. I figured he'd run Llama Leftovers with Dragon Dance, which he didn't end up doing, but he did run Throat Chop on a different variant of Hydreigon, and this saved me because Moonblast was able to hit it when Hyper Voice would have been prevented, so that was huge. So now that I went through my team and discussed kind of what I expect from his team, I expected Throat Chop Hydreigon, some sort of Rocks Aggron, and Toxic or Toxic Spikes and Nidoqueen, but it could be Rocks Nidoqueen and a utility with like Roar, Body Press, Aggron, or even Curse Aggron potentially, although Curse Aggron doesn't do well against Slowbro in all honesty. And if I force rest, then I could beat it up with Tornado's T or Aegislash enough Sleep Talk, and if it's Mono Heavy Slam, I can actually stall that out with Slowbro, because +6 is doing enough, and he's going to be slower. So yeah, I kind of thought that through a ton. What else? Oh yeah, I expected Alamomola over Darmanitan, but if he brought Darmanitan, I was fairly certain it would be Scarf, but I wasn't going to let go of the prospect of Ban just because of how good it is to click strike move at any given time. And yeah, we went through Aggron already. And Florges, again, I touched on. I was expecting Calm Mind, but if it didn't bring Alamola, it had to be Wish, but it always had that Field Up. So yeah, let's get into the game. Okay, so as you see, he brought Darmanitan, and he didn't bring Alamola. So right off the bat, this tells me a couple things. First and foremost, this means that the Florges is not going to be Calm Mind. So Iron Head could be useful for picking it off if he expects a fully special variant. So I might try to lure it in for that false sense of security. So I'm not going to use Iron Head early on if I don't have to, unless the Florges is in against me. Basically, I'm saving Iron Head. What else? I also see he's got Hydreigon and he's got Darmanitan, so it's definitely not Scarf Hydreigon, and it's probably even a slower Tornado because I'm expecting a Scarf Darmanitan. So therefore, I didn't want to reveal Moonblast with Sylveon unnecessarily. So say I'm against the Tornado and I expect to switch to Aggron or Nidoqueen, I might be more inclined to double switch out myself and go for a mid ground or go for a Wish than Moonblast, just so I could save that, so you could lure him into a sense of security where I could have a sequence where he goes for a Throat Chop. Finally, seeing as he's not going to be Calm Mind on this, as he's probably going to be Wish, this being the floor, just sorry. I felt I could play my Aegislash a bit more liberally, keep it in on something like that Tornado's T, so that I could get a Toxic off in it. Maybe I take a Knock or a Heat Wave, but I'll be fine because I can Wish up to it myself, and I don't need my health as much, since he's not a win condition Florges. His win condition is probably going to be Hydreigon, so I knew it would be Dragon Dance or a Nasty Plot variant, which is why Sylveon's health is especially important. But I knew I could play Aegislash a bit more aggressively because he's not Calm Mind, so I don't need to preserve a lot of health. And moreover, I could try to trade like Toxic or Shadow Ball damage on that Tornado C for a knockoff for a Heat Wave. And then that would also lure in the floor just so I could potentially get that Iron Hit sequence anyway. So these are some sequences and some ideas I have stuck in mind, but I'm still going with the lead Rotom plan I mentioned before. Lead, and if I catch Tornado C Thunder, unfortunately, he leads with Nidoqueen, so right off the bat, I retreat the Mana Buzz. He goes for Rocks. I go for a Knock, anticipating him to go for an attack or Toxic or even a Taunt. And he goes Toxic, and I'm like, okay, I can defog this off. I know he doesn't want to take a ton of damage. I defog here. I take a second turn of Poison, and I just go for U-turn here, and I only do 2% into the Jerome Powell with Mega Aggron, which is a funny nickname. He goes for Roar there. That's fine. Sylveon comes in, and I go back to Slowbro, and he goes for a Heavy Slam. And I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be Toxic, but it might be Curse. Either way, Scald is safe for me. I don't think he's going to go Hydreigon at this point. And if he goes Florges, that invites Sylveon in, or Aegislash in, I can make progress. Or Kill Bell. So anyway, I Scald to get a burn there. He Toxics me. That's fine. I Kill Bell up. I teleport him this, and then I go for the Thunder, trying to catch it, but he goes this Nidoqueen. So I feel like I'm a little behind here, but I get Tornado's T in here, and now I can start making progress. I go for a Hurricane, and right off the bat, this did 22%. So that reveals not only he's plus special defense, but he's got significant special defense damage. So seeing as I have some investment in attack of Aegislash, I know that if it's anything below 100, I almost always kill with Iron Head, and if it's at 100, it's still a favorable roll. So that's something I keep in mind. I know I want to lure it in that sequence, but I'm not quite sure how yet. I do have Taunt, but I don't want to go for it necessarily. I want to get Sylveon in and heal but off the 2 Toxics. However, he's going to call that. I really wanted to taunt a Hurricane again, but he called that play really well, got Target King to Darmanitan in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to protect his skeleton move. I figure he's going to Flare Blitz. I don't think he's going to be Belly Drum here. So I protect, I get up to 99, and now I go hard Slowbro, which is he goes back to Florges, so he's a little ahead. He's a turn ahead of me at this point. But I get back Sylveon, I don't want to take Moonblast damage, and he goes for Heal Bell of his own, healing up the burn I got from Scald earlier. So a little bit of luck playing in my favor, give me a free turn there. And now I'm going to go for Heal Bell of my own. I would have gotten an ultimately, probably just with a Moonblast alternatively. Just would have been a little lower health-wise, but yeah, that's fine. And now I go for Protect, just get up to full, and he goes for Toxic, so it wastes a Toxic PP, which can always be helpful. I don't feel I need to go to Aegis Slash and risk that coming into Toxic, so I go Slowbro here. And he Heavy Slams, just predicting perhaps an over prediction or something like that. And now he goes for Toxic here as I go for another Scald. This time I don't burn, but that's fine. 1 or 2 burns is around a 50-50 anyway. And now he Roars, which outdoes my Teleport, and I get Aegis Slash in here, and I think I go for a Toxic here, predicting the switch. Yeah, because he could be die to a max special attack, Shadow Ball, or max attack, heavy close combat. So I go for Toxic there. He goes for Knockoff, and I get a Shadow Ball off here. And that reveals that he's got like near max special defense on this. So what's important about that is that A, he lives with Thunder now from absolutely full health, so I want to keep it low. But on top of that, it also means that my Tornadoes outrun too. So if I get a nasty plot up, and then I'm going to force kills and then force Darmanitan in to take Flare Blitz damage. So I could potentially set up a late game with that Tornadoes T-Sweep. In addition, I also live a Flare Blitz from full health, so I could potentially spin that in my favor as well. Because if he's not Scarf and he's dying to a +2 Hurricane as well, or even a Hurricane after recoil damage if he takes that going into Slowbro a couple times. So that's important as well. So I feel like I'm in a nice spot here. However, at this point I haven't revealed King Shield, and also he's seen that I've used Toxic and Shadow Ball. So he's thinking that I'm King Shield plus Substitute, because that's a set I've ran twice before. It's a set that's really good in Aegis Slash in general. And Shadow Ball with special attack investment, he sees I'm plus special attack giving that damage as well. Basically means that I'm not going to be mixed with Iron Head, maybe close combat, but Iron Head would be very unlikely. So he knows that he can go to his specially defensive Heal Bell Florges and Heal Bell that off and potentially wish some health back up. Basically a free play. He doesn't expect Iron Head at all. So I King Shield knowing, okay, best case scenario, he stays in here and goes for a U-turn or tries to get it for a heat wave to get damage off, and then I really force him low and I get back in the shield form. Or potentially, worst case scenario, he goes to like Darmanitan, and okay, but then I can King Shield. I'm pretty sure it's choice left. If he goes Hydreigon, I just go back to Sylveon anyway. So I go for a very low risk King Shield here, knowing worst case scenario, that happens. Best case scenario, he either stays in and takes more damage, or he goes Florges and I lure him into false security and I nab that Iron Head, which is likely to kill. And as you see, he does go to Florges, expecting just what I anticipated. I go for the King Shield, and then I get that Iron Head off. As while he's at full health, it's still a favorable roll with my attack investment, I believe. And I take him out. He might have had defense investment. I'm not sure. I just know he wasn't plus. Now he goes Hydreigon, and I go for Toxic here. And I knew that I was fine staying in here because there's no way he's going to go for a Dark Pulse or a Flamethrower or a Throat Chop on this turn because Sylveon is too likely. He needs to do something like Progress. I predicted him to either stay in and go for a setup move or stay in and go for a Steel type move or even a Poison type move, although Belch wouldn't work. So probably a Steel type move like Flash Cannon, Iron Tail, or Nasty Plot Dragon Dance. Unfortunately, though, he revealed he's a sub booster set, and my Toxic went pretty much for nothing in this turn. In hindsight, my play was to Iron Head just because it would prevent the substitute. But I know since he's subbed up here, I'm in an okay position because I still really don't need this Aegis Slash at all. And this is not pools. So the differential of the game doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I win 6-0 or if I win 1-0. So what I do here is now I just stay in knowing he's probably going to go for this setup move here. And I want to see what he is. If he goes for Throat Chop, that's fine. My Sylveon should be able to live 2 hits, probably. But also, Mandibuzz U-turn could likely break us up. And so he goes for Nasty Plot, and then I go for Iron Head, and now he's going to take me out with the Dark Pulse. I didn't want to play any games, so he goes for that Dark Pulse. He recovers him lefties to 88, but he's still easily in Moonblast range. So I go Sylveon now, and I'm like, okay. Worst case scenario, he's Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon has no chance of killing me at +2 with leftovers. Even with Life Orb, he would need to be modest and get a roll to kill me. Modest, actually, Timid is a roll in very much my favor. Modest is a roll in his favor. But he's not Life Orb, he's leftovers. So I always live barring a crit. So I just can't get crit here. And if I do get crit, then Tornadoes is still at fault, so I live a +2 Dark Pulse anyway, and I just need to hit 2 Hurricanes, basically. Actually, 2 Hurricanes would be a roll to kill, but I'd even have Rotom Seed to potentially revenge kill that, but then I'd be down a couple Pokemon, so it'd be bad. So I just can't get crit here, and I'm fine. but he thinks I'm a hyper voice variant because I went out of my way not to show Moonblast before. So he goes for Throat Chop, which he turns out he has on this set, which is really smart of him. But since Jake made that suggestion, my hyper voice is negated because I have Moonblast. I'm Cute Charm. I get that Moonblast off, and the crowd goes wild. It's like, holy shit. Thank God for Jake. Thank God so much. Because I would have lost if I was the set I initially had. So the Moonblast really bailed me out there. I got the kill, and now it's very hard for me to lose this game. I feel like I'm in a really comfortable position at this point in time. So I go Slowbro, and I get whirled in, and now I just go for the safe Leaf Storm because if I forced a rest on this, then I can take advantage of it a ton because he's not rest talk, so it's another 3 move. I just don't want to let the Nidoqueen win in because if it gets a critical hit after Toxic on Mandibuzz, then I could be in trouble. So basically, despite making the wrong play, this was always the right play because it was a safe play. And also, it turns out he's not even rest. He's Earthquake Blast. So he gets a Toxic off on this, but that's fine. I got Heal Belt, and I don't need this health for anything anyway. Now I go Tornadus T, knowing a couple of things. One, if he goes for Heavy Slam, then that's fine. I live even a crit without investment more often than not. But Tornadus T is the most expendable member of my team because I'm fairly certain this Darmanitan Scarf, given how he's played the game. And I really only need this just like to hit Heat Waves and chip shit down at this point. So I go to my most expendable team member despite it being at full health. And he goes for a Roar anyway. He roars in Slowbro, which is a good Roar for me. Anything but Sylveon would be great. And even Sylveon I can just pivot out of. He reveals his last with Earthquake, and I take it out with Scald. So I'm in an even more comfortable position. At this point, he goes Tornadus T, so I'm going to switch out to Sylveon, knowing, okay, he's not a very offensive variant, so I'm okay here. He goes Taunt, which is interesting that he's running a slow, special defensive Taunt variant. Probably a special plus special defense as well. Goes for Nox, so it's like a full-on like stall breaker kind of Torn T. In fact, I really like the set choice by him. I only 25% with Moonblast here, and he gets a Toxic off, revealing his full set's probably going to be Taunt, Knockoff, Toxic, and I want to say Hurricane or Air/Last, but either way, I take him out finally between Poison and the Moonblast. He goes to this, and I just let myself go. I don't want to risk Slowbro getting critical hit. And now I go Slowbro, and with a Mega Evolution, Skull guarantees a kill somewhere, and I can take out either last Pokemon through other means as well. Knockoff, this always lives the Scarf Blabblitz, and then Knockoff puts it, plus Recoil, puts it in like Heat Wave range or Volt Switch range. And if he lets that die, then I just handled this the way accordingly. Yeah, I just Heat Wave it a couple times. After he takes me out, Thunderbolt can do a kill me, and then Knockoff does the trick from there. And if not, Leaf Storm would have as well. But yeah, Knockoff, it was a Knockoff range, so it's fine. Oh, crap. Shit. Sorry about that. I hope you guys didn't disturb your viewing presence. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a close game against a very strong opponent, Tremono. Well played to you, very cool team. And thank you so much to the guys who helped me prepare, specifically Jake, for that idea with the Moonblast. So yeah, very cool game. I enjoyed this one thoroughly. And I'm going to enjoy my next battle, hopefully, which will be probably next week. And if I win that, then I might be playing on stream for top 16. So definitely stay tuned for that. Check out the Cash Gangs tournament. They've got a lot of cool stuff going on. I'm very excited for this. And that's all for now. It's been lit. It's Finch. Peace, guys. Have a nice night.